Welcome to The Business Fighter with Henry Penix. Henry has been the CEO, founder, and consultant to hundreds of companies worldwide. He retired a multimillionaire, financially independent at the age of 35. Henry grew up a preacher's son and was thrown in jail 3 times for various altercations. He knows what it means to come from nothing and have to fight his way to the top. Henry is the business fighter who will teach you strategic skills for winning in business and in life. Don't just spectate, participate. It's time to get in the ring.
Hey guys, this is Henry Penix, the business fighter, coming to you with another podcast. I've got an amazing guest on my podcast today, and it's something that you all either are concerned with now or should be concerned with shortly. We're going to talk about screen time and what that does to a child's mind and probably an adult's mind as well, how it affects depression, anxieties, et cetera, et cetera. And we're coming from a true expert. This gentleman has been an expert on a lot of TV shows. He's been a counselor for 25 years. He's getting ready to retire from that. He's taking this plethora of knowledge that he's gained from that environment and being a psychotherapist as well. He's practicing today as we speak. He's going to take all that information, all that experience, bundle it up and drop some golden nuggets for you that you are going to love, love, love. This is one of those interviews that I can't wait to get into. So without further ado, Tom Kersting, welcome to Henry, the Business Fighter podcast.
Thank you, Henry. How are you?
Good, good. How you doing today?
Fantastic.
Good, good. Yeah, we were talking a little bit before about me being an OU fan, being from Oklahoma, and they're getting to play LSU. So I'm so excited about that. I will be having TV screen time for that. I want you to know.
That's okay. That we could forgive. We'll allow that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I can't wait to see it. But such an interesting topic, man. I was so excited to get into this. I've got kids. They're either on an iPhone screen or in front of a PlayStation or whatever. Some of these kids are almost addicted to Fortnite, spending 3, 4, 5 hours. And parents allow them to do this. I think no harm for the parents because they don't know any different. But it may be affecting the kids in some way or another. I want to get into that here in a little bit, but first I want to hear about what you've been doing, some of your qualifications to kind of get to where you are today. And then I want to jump right into that topic. I'm so excited. Tell me about Tom Kersting, how you started, what you've done, and kind of where you are today.
I'm going to try to piece this together in 30 seconds, right? So I have been a high school counselor in New Jersey for 25 years, and I'm also a licensed psychotherapist. I own my own practice for 20 years. I got into the topic of screen time, screen addiction, if you want to call it that, 10 years ago, actually. At the high school, I run something called the 504 Committee, which is helping students that have disabilities. Mm-hmm. In 2009, parents will come in, they ask for specific accommodations. Right around 2008, 2009, just about every referral we had starting that year was for teenagers recently diagnosed with ADHD. All right, so it got my head spinning because if anybody listening, if you don't know anything about ADHD, it's a neurological condition that you're born with. And by age 5, if you have a child with ADHD, you can't not know it. And the average age of diagnosis is age 8. So anyway, roll back to 2008, suddenly just this onslaught of teenagers being diagnosed with ADHD. And I felt like I was all alone, like questioning this, what's going on.
Right.
So I started
Am I the only one seeing this?
Yeah, right. All right. So I started to aggressively research the topic, and I came across some very compelling research studies where in the study, one of the researchers coined a term that he called acquired ADHD. And essentially what he meant by that is that these older kids that have the symptoms of attention deficit disorder, the inattentiveness, the lack of focus, the disorganization, probably don't have ADHD. And what they had, and again, this is back in 2008, is a brain that had changed from being constantly stimulated by screens. And that's the way the brain works. It's called neuroplasticity. The brain will adapt to any environment it's spending the most time in. If you spend 3 hours a day or more in a highly stimulating world, your brain will grow new neural pathways and adapt to that world. And the average kid back in 2008 was spending 7.5 hours per day in the most highly stimulating world.
Please say what you just said again, because I don't want people to miss this. This is so relative to things that I'm into, to different paths that I take people down. Say that statistic you just said just a second ago.
Yeah, so brain neuroplasticity is basically the brain's malleable. It will adjust and adapt to whatever any environment it's spending the most time in. So essentially, if you're spending 3 hours or more per day in anything that's considered highly stimulating, your brain will grow new neural pathways. Those are the electrical impulses in the brain that are responsible for what it means to be a human being. Each one of those allows us to communicate, to focus, to listen, to cope. And back in 2000, the 2008 research, the average kid was spending 7.5 hours per day in the most highly stimulating world, screen time. So the experts, were piecing that together and saying what's actually happening is their brains are changing, and that's causing all of this, inattentiveness and stuff. So then 2009 is when I first started going out lecturing on this topic, and it was more of a forewarning of what is going to I was hypothesizing based on my experience what we were going to be in for down the road. And now it's smack upon us.
Wow.
The anxiety disorders, and I'm lecturing all over the country. I wrote a very popular book that's now the second edition is coming out in July, and that's where I'm at right now.
So you were like a Nostradamus,
kind of, yeah.
Forecasting what they're saying. I want to spend just a second with this because I study the brain and a lot of things that I do as well. I do consulting all over the world and all of that. I meet a lot of different people. I've talked about this because the brain in its elasticity, when you're in a highly motivated, highly active environment, it can actually be affected by that. So some people say, well, that's just negative. Look at the negative side of it. Kids' screen time, it's causing acquired ADHD, et cetera, et cetera. But even as an adult or somebody even getting into business, a lot of my stuff goes out to business people. If you're in an environment and you envision and forecast different business ideas, and you can somehow also have an environment that's highly motivating or inspiring, or something that creates a positive response. I can't think of the right word now, but some sort of high level energy that you can surround yourself with while you're thinking about this business idea. Can that be positive to you as well? I mean, can you almost see or help forecast yourself into a positive business idea?
Sure. I mean, it's not all bad. It's just basically wherever your brain is the most is what you're going to become. So
wherever you stimulate it.
Yeah. Like, so for me, one thing that I do, I mean, I know your business stuff. So one thing that society is lacking right now is silence, boredom. All right. Boredom is literally the miracle grow for our mind and emotions. And few people, particularly kids, intentionally go out of their way to be silent and quiet and look around because they're always distracted. So anybody that has a great business, every idea that I've ever created with books, lectures, my private practice stuff, things I've written have come from inside of my mind while I'm closing my eyes, reflecting for 15 minutes to a half an hour a day. But if we're not doing that, if we're just passive thinking, our thoughts are controlling us instead of us controlling them, we're unlikely to get to where we want to get in life. And that's one of the issues with all the screen time, because it's gobbling up now around 8 or 9 hours of our time per day. And we're not tapping into our internal resources.
That is so strong. Guys, I told you we're going to bring you some golden nuggets here. If you just learn that alone and you experience purposeful and plan on purposeful boredom, you're going to get spoke to. like something's going to enter your mind. You're going to get those ideas. You're going to get those great thoughts. I didn't mean to throw you off, and I want you to continue on the path and the work you were doing with kids, because this is so important. This is what I promised at the beginning of this podcast. So tell me more about how that affected your life and what you started doing in looking at this acquired ADHD for kids.
Yeah, so it started then with the acquired ADHD, and I was basically going out lecturing, discussing the statistics, what specifically kids were spending the most time on back then, back in 2007. So now from 2008, which is when the iPhone came out, 2008, until now is when all hell has broken loose. Okay, because now, every human being just about has their TV, their camera, their music, their phone, their games, their social media, everything bundled up into a little deck of cards that goes in their pocket and goes with them everywhere. And it's causing a dehumanization effect. So if you were to fly out here and come into New York with me tomorrow and walk around Manhattan, you would see most people walking around like this.
Yep.
And you see it where you are as well.
You're right.
And the problem with that fundamentally is that as human beings, we are social emotional beings. We're supposed to be interacting with one another because we feed off of one another energetically, believe it or not. We communicate that way. But if we're stuck in some cyber world, I always say, like, if you're living most of your life in a cyber world, how can you function and thrive in the real world? It's like a lion that was rescued as a cub, put in a cage. It can't be released out to the wild after it's healed because it won't know how to hunt and survive in its natural habitat.
In the real world.
Yeah. And that's what we're up against right now with today's generation of kids who I work with. And I see a substantial lack in communication, social skills. You as a business person, you talk with many business people, they will tell you that a lot of the recent college graduates that they're interviewing, there's something missing there. It's kind of like, anybody home there?
No, 1,000%. If they can even get in front of them. Like some of them tell me, if I can't send my interview in on a text or something digital, then I don't think I'm going to go.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what planet were you grown on? You know, like have to, I love face-to-face interaction.
Yeah, it's so critically important. Now, being a good communicator, a job interviewer, that is a skill that is learned. Yep. And the only way to learn that skill of communication, like you and I are doing right now, we know it's on a camera, we can still see each other. The only way to learn and be able to handle that and go on a job interview and respond correctly and have the non-verbal nuances taking place is by having lots and lots of communication face-to-face.
Reading body language, all that.
All of it. And you don't know you're doing it. It's a skill that you develop through practice.
Good point.
Yeah. But today's generation of kids do very little of that. And I fear, and that's why we're seeing, you know, the recent college graduates, so many of them coming from top universities, they go on a job interview with somebody like yourself with a 4.0 GPA, and there's something there, and you're like, I can't hire this guy. This guy's not going to be able to talk to people.
Yep. No, I'm with you 1,000%, man. That is so strong. So what, as a parent, can you do to limit that? I know if you take something from somebody that rarely works unless you replace it with something else. Is there any advice you would give parents listening right now that have kids that have too much, or even teenagers that have too much screen time? I mean, how do you make them aware of it? How do you attack it? How do you overcome it?
Well, for the first thing, you know, if you went on Amazon, my first book that's just out of print right now, the new version's coming out. It's called Disconnected: How to Reconnect Our Digitally Distracted Kids. There's 161 reviews on there. Most of them are 5-star reviews. And a lot of them say every parent must read this book because it points out so much information that parents aren't aware of. Not only what it's doing to kids mentally, emotionally, all that, but what parents need to do to take control of this situation. Here are some of the things they need to do. All right. Number one is you have to practice what you preach as a parent. So if you're at home telling your kids to get off the Xbox and you're on your computer for hours and hours, you know, you're not practicing what you're preaching. So parents, we have to make sure, you know, that we're practicing what we're preaching. Another simple strategy is never, ever allow your child, no matter how old they are, to be in their bedrooms with electronic devices, because then you're going to lose them to the bedroom. There's a trend with teenagers right now where they're spending all of their time in their bedrooms, and it's because they're on social media, computers, YouTube, and all that. Yep. Another simple strategy, and this is a difficult one for parents: send your child to school without the smartphone. All right, and that's a big fear because the smartphones become the umbilical cord between a parent and child. Exactly. And right now, when I'm out lecturing, there could be 200-300 people, and I'll say, raise your hand if you think it's smart for an 11-year-old to have a smartphone. Never once has anybody ever raised their hand. Yet the average age of first smartphone issuance is 10.3 years old.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So everybody's, you know, now I think that's called a important part of my lecture and books. I lead into something known as social conformity. What we don't realize as humans is we may say when our children are young, all right, I'm going to be the best parent in the world. My kid's going to be vegan. He's going to be a Major League Baseball player. He's going to Harvard. He's never drinking soda. He's never going to McDonald's. All right. We have all these great ideas. And then all of a sudden, you know, because every one of your child's friends now that are 8, 9, 10 years old is playing Call of Duty and getting cell phones, our brains start to say, you know what? Everybody else is doing it. I mean, I don't want my kid to be left out. So now your 10 or 11-year-old has a smartphone, even though you know it's a very dumb thing to equip them with a smartphone. So I tell parents, you know, we have to do what is right in our own household. Forget about what society's doing, and do what we know is right in our household. Those are a couple tips. No video games during the week. Very simple. Make sure that those phones, never mind being in their bedroom, the kids should never sleep with them. Most teenagers sleep with them. It's just a disaster. They're going to bed at all kinds of hours of the night. And it's just really harnessing in and being in control, taking control of what's going on under our own roof.
So good. So good. So guys, I hope you heard that. Tom Kersting, the name of the book is Disconnected. It's coming out. Did you say you're doing a reprint, Tom? Have you updated it at all, or are you just reprinting it?
Oh, yeah. So the original book came out December of 2016. I self-published it, and it sold so many copies that it got picked up by a major traditional publisher. So it's been revised. It's about double the length. Yeah, there's new chapters, updates, and that's going to be released. Now I'll have distribution all over the country.
Yeah.
That's coming out early in the summer.
Wow, so relevant. So I feel like we've been on here 5 minutes, and it's already been about my time limit that I like to do these podcasts. Any closing thoughts? Tell people how they can reach out to you. Are you on any of the social media, Instagram, Facebook, any of that? How would you prefer people reach out to you? I know they're going to go out and buy the book, but how do they get more of what I'm hearing today?
Well, actually, the best way is, believe it or not, is to use your phone. Again, technology is not bad. It's just, going to the gym for an hour a day is great. Going to the gym for 9 hours a day is not great. Yeah, having a glass of wine is okay. Yeah. Use your phone, text the word reconnect to the number 66866, and you'll be on my newsletter, mailings, all the stuff that I send out there. You can also go to my website, which is just www.tomkersting.com.
Okay. Awesome. I've learned so much here, and I've got so much more to talk to you about. I think we could do a whole thing on parents, on kids, on business people, how to do an interview. I mean, there's so much there that I definitely want to reconnect because you're a joy to speak with, super intelligent.
Likewise.
Thank you. Super intelligent, but yet you know how to break it down to make it real and relative so that people can actually understand it. So I've so enjoyed having you on. Henry Penix, the Business Fighter podcast. Tom Kersting, go out and buy his book now, Disconnected. And do me a huge favor. Whatever you're doing now, take 2 seconds, send this interview to 10 people. 10 people, 10 of your friends, or 10 of your enemies, whatever you want. If you think this would help change somebody's life, or better yet, save the life and the brain of a child, send this to just 10 people right now and watch how much good comes back to you for doing that. Tom, thank you so much. I know we're going to connect again, man. Have a great day.
You too, pal. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Take care.